I'm going to go ahead and call our work session to order. We have several delegates tonight, and so Mr. King will read our delegation statement, and he'll just read this one time, and then that it will obviously apply to everyone. Twice. Okay. All right, good evening.
There's Joe Wingate. Hold on.
There he is.
All right.
Everybody stop.
Always making a grand entrance.
Hey, enjoy it while you can. He's not here much longer.
All right. Good afternoon. Thank you for your interest in addressing the Hamilton County Board of Education. During your presentation, please address the board as a whole, not individuals or individual board members or administrators. Also, please do not present complaints or concerns you have about an individual employee of the school system. If you wish to voice those complaints and concerns, you should contact central office and ask for a meeting with the superintendent, since the superintendent is responsible for individual employees. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes, and I will tell you when you have 1 minute left. We'll also have a clock running up here, and we will start with Emily Harmon.
Hi, how are you guys? I'm Emily. I'm a mother of 3 children. We live on Signal Mountain, and all 3 of my kids go to Thrasher Elementary. I have an almost 5th grader, an almost 2nd grader, and an almost 1st grader. My youngest, Dolly, was born with spina bifida, and she is in a wheelchair. She just completed her 1st year of kindergarten, and all of my fears that I had as a mom of people leaving her out or making fun of her, they all melted away because she's thriving. It's such a sweet community. It is home for my family. That's, not often that you know that your kids are in a place where there's 100 other moms watching your kids, and that's how I feel. I feel like they love my kids the same way that I love my kids, which is great. She's made so many friends. She's thriving. But one thing, she's kind of been let down by her school leaders, which is devastating. In June of 2022, I started conversations with the principal at the time about making sure that Thrasher would be handicap accessible for my daughter when she came. So we live right across the street from Thrasher, and we moved up there just so that we could have this community. My children are walkers, which is so sweet. And so we wanted to make sure that Dolly could safely get into the school building and that she could access all areas of the school without hesitation. So around March 3rd of 2023, I met with the current leaders at Thrasher. We walked the whole playground, we walked the entire school, and I pointed out areas that I thought would be of concern. I was under the impression that these things were going to be taken care of. Nothing was done. Around March 16th, I sent a follow-up email, and I explained that I had been researching grants and contacted connections that I had at PlayCorps. I was told that the school at that time had a revitalization grant for $125,000 and that accessibility was a key factor. 2023 July, a sidewalk was put in so that Dolly could finally get into the school, which was great. August 23, she started kindergarten. There was a new principal, so all of these conversations that we'd been working to have started over again. She came home, she could get into the facility safely, but then she came home telling me about her chalk buddy. And I didn't know what that meant. I said, "Who is your chalk buddy?" And she said, "Oh, that's the person that I get to choose at recess to do chalk with me." And I just melted. I thought, oh my gosh, my daughter is sitting on a sidewalk doing chalk while all of her friends are playing. So not only was I worried about her being left out, but also the fact that these children were being pulled out of their regular community to sit with her and do chalk. So Dolly can only access the top portion of the playground at Thrasher. She's also supposed to have an aide during that time, and I've been told that that only happens sometimes. She comes home every day with holes in her pants and scrapes on her knees. When Dolly gets wounds, it's not the same as you and I getting wounds. We can't just put Neosporin on it and, she goes to the emergency room. She goes to the wound center because her wounds don't heal the same way that ours do. She has very low blood circulation to her lower extremities, and so it's very dangerous for her. Fall 23, I met with the principal again, and I begged them to change anything, help me with anything, give her something else that she can do. I told them that I didn't want her doing chalk anymore, and I didn't want other kids being forced to not play on the playground in order to keep her entertained. This is her every day. Imagine this is your every day of recess. There's no other choices. Every day, your decision, your choice is chalk. So they did end up putting in a handicap swing, which I was really excited about. However, she can't access it. So the entire playground is full of mulch. There's one sidewalk, but the incline is extremely dangerous for Dolly. So the handicap swing that they do have, someone has to pick her up and carry her to it because she can't access it. The playground is covered in mulch, it's covered in grass, and she has to get out of her chair in order to scoot to places that she can be to meet her friends. I feel like it's extremely unsafe, and I feel like it's really unfair. I don't want her to go through another year of this. So I'm here today to ask you to consider the funds that you have for facilities for my daughter to make this school handicap accessible. This is our home zone school, and it's so important for me to keep my children in this school, in this public school. Dolly doesn't just have, we had an IEP meeting, and we decided that it was best for Dolly to move to first grade with all of her peers because they knew her, they supported her. They get her pencil box for her, they carry her lunch tray for her. When they see her struggling, they give her a boost. Not only does she have that support system, but she has a whole slew of, in second grade, she has a bunch of boys, Brooks's friends, who protect her, they keep her safe. She has a whole group of fifth grade girls that mother her. They teach the fourth grade girls, the third grade girls, the second grade girls, what it's like to be different, how to have different abilities. So I ask you to consider it, and I ask you not to consider a rezoning. I would love to stay at Thrasher. Okay. Stay at Thrasher with our friends and family, with our community, and I'd love for us to be able to help the community thrive, learn, and push them to accept others with different abilities. That's all.
You still have some time if you have something else, yeah.
I don't really have anything else
Okay.
to say. I can wrap it up.
That's
I
fine.
did bring photos of the playground if anybody wants to understand that she can only access about 15% of the playground. That's really it.
Yeah, if you want to come show us.
You want to see the pictures? So, as you can see, this is the handicap swing, but you can see the mulch. She can't get to it without getting injuries. This is Dolly and her friends just showing me that she's thriving. So this is the top of the playground where you can see I wrote chalk. That's the, and then this is just to show the scope of how large the playground is. And all the way at the very, very, very top is her little tiny sliver that she can access.
Have you gone to Vandergrift Park? Is that playground, is that a good model?
So, which one's
Vandergrift is in Hickson. It's fully accessible.
Yes.
We're supposed to be, yeah.
And all I'm really asking for is I want sidewalks from every piece of equipment so that she can get, and then I want love resurfacing so that she doesn't get injured.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Ms. Jones, I'm sorry.
Mr. Perez, is there a plan, like, have you talked to,
Yeah.
what's going on?
So I don't know if you guys want to address it yet, but I do know that Dr. Sharp is looking at this with the facilities team, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of this is, Ms. Harmon's narrative, it's transition in leadership that's an issue, but if you've ever been to Thrasher, there are huge topography issues. Like, it's not a Red Bank Elementary playground that's on a 0% slope. I mean, from front to back, it's probably 25 feet of elevation change maybe more than that. And so, we're looking at it, trying to do what we can. Also remind you that Thrasher is on first phase, although your approved kind of rating, it's towards the bottom of that first group of projects that are in the first phase of this next bond issue. So we're continuing to look at it, continuing to work with community at Thrasher to do it. We've worked across a number of elementary schools on redoing our playgrounds, and every one that we are redoing, we're making sure that they're handicap accessible. That's something that we're committed to, and we'll work to our best of our ability at Thrasher to make something more workable for the Harmons.
And if I'm correct, this is the new playground that was donated, correct? Or is this the old?
There's a part at the top that she mentioned that is accessible. There needs to be
Yeah.
better sidewalks or easier routes between pieces of equipment, but I think the current ask is accessible to every part of the playground, which again, that's where it becomes difficult because of elevation change and topography issues.
So from my perspective on Thrasher, I mean, there's no doubt that we want every student to have access to every opportunity at our schools. So I know you're working toward that, but I know it's not easy, so thank you. And your daughter's beautiful, and we want her to be welcome and invited and feel loved by everybody. So, I mean, everything you're saying is right. We gotta get there, so.
And for clarity, the bond plan isn't until the fall, right?
Next week, they're supposed to take a first vote. I don't know the ins and outs. Scott may be able to provide, but it's a multi-step process.
Right.
First step being a vote on Wednesday to start it, with the final vote being, I can't remember the exact date in August, sometime mid-August, that would make available up to $250 million in bonds.
Okay.
Danielle Rudd.
Mr. King, we're having issues, we're having technical difficulties with that, so I'm running it over here. Just want to let you know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Danielle Rudd, and I am a middle school RTI facilitator. And I have come today to discuss and to bring forth some things that I think that it would be very beneficial for you to hear from an employee. I had an issue that I ran into last week that inspired me to speak, and it kind of just opened the floodgates for me. So I just wanted to make you aware of some things that Hamilton County employees are experiencing. So part of my job as an RTI facilitator is to dig deep into data. So I brought some data to present. The first thing I want to share with you is that I've been an educator for 16 years. And in my 16 years, typically I've shown an average growth with my students between 1 and 2 years per their time in my classroom. However, this year, I had the distinct privilege of growing a student 4 grade levels in a semester. So this requires me to reflect and as I think of best practices and ways that I can continue to help. The other side of that coin is several times this school year, I've had to sit back and think, can I do this much longer? And specifically, can I afford to do this much longer? So I know that emotions are running high as we're talking about pay and the budget and things like that, and I wanted to just share with you some data regarding that. Sorry, it's a little emotional. Last night, News Channel 9 published an article that highlighted that Chattanooga is rapidly becoming an impossibly unaffordable place to live. And I have both seen and heard recently that there are concerns that Hamilton County Schools employees cannot afford to live in Hamilton County. In fact, some of us can't even afford to live in Tennessee. We live over the border in Georgia, and that hurts tremendously at tax time. Though, according to the Federal Economic Reserve data, wages have gone up, nominal wages, minimum wage, they have risen. They're not accounted for the rate of inflation, so they're not rising at a level that is sustainable. In fact, it appears that we're making less than we have in the past. Along with that, Chattanooga, the median house price right now is $300,000. The median mortgage rate is $2,894. That's $6 short of $2,900 a month. And keep in mind, your mortgage is supposed to be 1/3 of your pay. So I've heard concerns from other Hamilton County School employees, and between their stories and my own, I just wanted to present some things that are having to be sacrificed in order to make ends meet with just the salary alone. My issue last week, I am happy to say, is being resolved. And I do want to mention that 51% of our employees are utilizing the one-to-one clinics and the HCS Ed Health pharmacies. And although that number is not overwhelmingly the majority, 51% by definition is the majority. So that tells me that the majority of our employees are seeking affordable options for their health care and their prescription medications. Along with that, some things that have been sacrificed, I'm hearing that people are not able to afford the groceries as they would normally. I'm hearing that people are utilizing things like food banks, churches, ways to get food on the table. And in my very humble opinion, no person who works for the county should have to rely on a food bank to put food on their table. That's not acceptable. Also, I'm hearing things like gas prices are difficult, childcare, food, clothes, shoes, things that are needed for extracurriculars for children. Haircuts, people are living off of their credit cards as they're unable to make ends meet.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you. And having to work extra jobs to support their household. And I know it is a tough thing to have to decide on a budget. And to hear these stories, I just ask that you keep these things in mind and respect that I've presented some data that I've taken time to research to advocate for competitive and livable wages for all Hamilton County employees. Thank you.
Mr. Rob Cresswell?
Hi, thank you for having me. We're going to try to show just a short video that will sum up what Greg O2 is. So,
on August 28, 2022, a tragedy occurred in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
So Greg was my brother that passed away last year. One Sunday, he went to lunch with his wife and he had an accident. He choked on a piece of steak. And unfortunately, the people in the restaurant panicked and didn't know what to do, and Greg passed away. Choking deaths are the fourth leading cause of death in children under 5 years old. Choking's a common thing. We all know somebody that we've seen choking or that we've choked ourselves. Greg was my youngest brother. Greg was my partner in the business, and he was a kind soul. He was a giver. He was a caregiver to his wife. Greg was a runner. He got up at 3 o'clock every morning and he ran the bridges of Chattanooga. For Greg to pass away by a lack of oxygen is something that we just want to prevent going forward. Something I found out about during Greg's funeral, a device called the LifeVac. It's an amazing device. It's saved over 1,400 people so far, and it's never lost a patient. So Greg O2's mission is to put a LifeVac in every school, nursing home, daycare center, restaurant, and first responder vehicle. We came up with the idea to do Greg O2. We developed a website, www.grego2.org, and put together volunteers, over 50 volunteers. And so 100% of the donations go towards putting LifeVacs on food service areas. Our biggest challenge is donations. Without donations, we can't put LifeVacs on the walls of food service areas. So that's what we need out of the community is donations. Our local government has been very strong in helping us. Our health department has come forward to help us with Greg 02, to notify the public of what Greg 02 is all about and what LifeVac is. Chattanooga is a strong city, and when we need each other, people come together. The more LifeVacs we can get on food service areas, the more lives that we can save. So a LifeVac, this is a LifeVac. It's a very simple device. It's literally place, push, pull. So if you have something in your throat, this device goes over, you push down, and you pull out. It creates 70 times more pressure coming up than the Heimlich maneuver. LifeVac has saved over 2,400 lives. It's never failed ever. So far, we've got about 1,800 up in Chattanooga. The health department is helping us. They're delivering them when they do an inspection at a restaurant. They deliver them to the restaurant, in some cases put them up. We are in Bradley County schools, Cleveland City schools, Catoosa County schools, and in July, Marion County schools. We're in some Chattanooga.
You have 1 minute.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. We have had some organizations put some in Hamilton County schools, but I'm here today just to let you guys know about Greg 02. We would like to have them in every school in Hamilton County. So just any questions or any way that you could help.
May I say something? Yeah, I have one out in my car actually right now. Yeah, I have one at my house. I bought one for my daughter. Also, she just bought a home back in April, and Greg Martin, the state representative, when he sells a house, he gives that as a gift to the new homeowners and to the person that sold the house. It's a wonderful gift, but I think everybody should have one. I really do. It's a great product.
Thank you.
What's the cost of one of them?
Yeah. So it cost us about $65 to put one up, and it's got Velcro on the back, and it's really easy to put up. Greg got us on the House floor, and the Education Committee of the state of Tennessee, it passed to put one in every school and first responder vehicle, and then we went to the Senate.
Could you move to the microphone?
I'm
so
sorry.
that the
I'm so
viewing
sorry.
audience-
So we passed in the House and we passed in the Senate, and then it went to Finance. And because of the budget, they didn't pass this year. We're hoping that passes next year to stick them in all schools, first responder vehicles in Tennessee. So,
Thank you for what you're doing.
thank you.
At this time, if you want to help with this, Rob has been speaking at different Chamber of Commerce, and chamber members are also doing donations. I know the chamber that I work with, we've got a couple donations, enough to put 16, put those in 16 schools. So if you know your Chamber of Commerce people, just talk to them. Some of those are doing a little bit of a donation push for this. So Rob, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Chair,
you.
Rob, before you leave, can I exchange information with you? Sorry, I'm over here. This one. Sorry. I work with a foundation that this similarly goes with AEDs and stuff. So let's make sure we exchange information before you leave.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Our cards will be on the back table back here.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
And just common sense, we have to have AED devices at all athletic events and all, in our buildings and stuff. And there's a greater risk of a child dying from choking on a hot dog being served at the athletic events than from an elderly person needing an AED device. So if we have to bring an AED device, and the health department is smart in that when they bring these into the different buildings, they're putting them right next to the AED device. So that's a good thing to have. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Chandler Davenport.
Good evening. My name is Chandler Davenport. I am a teacher at the Howard School. I'm going into my 5th year. And I wanted to talk to y'all today about what everybody wants to talk about, money. A couple of weeks ago, several of us went to the county commission meeting to talk to them about the proposed budget that you guys submitted to them. And almost immediately after our remarks were finished, they encouraged us to come talk to y'all. What I have found out through this process is that it seems like everybody is aware of the other party's job. What that also tells me is that if we work together, we can do something that will actually get teachers to the money they need to be making. So I have a couple quick points. First thing, reminding us of our just cause, our mission statement. All children thrive and experience a future without limits. That is very hard to do when the teachers and the classified staff that these kids spend 40+ hours a week with are not focused on content or running the building or being the best teacher they can be, because their mind is on, can I move this around to pay this bill next month? Can I get an extension on X, Y, and Z, because we just don't make enough. Forgive me, I don't remember your name, but the lady, 2 people before me, gave us some amazing facts. Like, we are feeling the pinch. Chattanooga's getting more expensive. I'm from Maryland, so it's not as expensive, but it's getting there. And to be quite honest, one of the reasons I settled in the city after undergrad is because the cost of living was so low. Coming out of college, needing to start a life, it's not like that anymore. It's gotten so much more expensive since I settled here in 2019. And several of you have children in Hamilton County schools. I am certain as a parent, you want your kid's teacher focused on your student or their students, not how they're gonna pay their bills, feed their own kids, keep a roof over their heads. That should be the last thing we have to worry about day in and day out. As teachers, this job has changed. My role has changed in 5 years. I can't imagine teachers who've been teaching for 10, 20, 30 years, all the changes they've seen. It's no longer the come in, teach your lesson, go home profession that people assume it to be. There's so much work, be it mental, emotional, whatever we have to do to get our students to want to learn before we can get to content. Stuff that is not explicitly laid out in our job descriptions when we apply for these positions. I promise you the teachers in this building don't do it because of the pay, we do it because we love it. I personally never thought I was gonna be a teacher, and not only am I good at it, this is something that brings me joy. I didn't wanna go into a career after undergrad that just paid me a ton of money, but bored me. I wanted something that fulfilled me. Bare minimum, every day, I get to make a new relationship. On the extreme days, I may be saving a life. And that's not something I take for granted. That's not something any teacher I've ever talked to takes for granted. We do it because we believe in our schools, we believe in our district, we believe in y'all, and most importantly, we believe in our kids. So as a budding adult, it hurts me to think that one day I'm gonna have to choose between the job that I love and a job that pays me what I need to make to not just survive. I make survival money right now, but I wanna start a family. I wanna have kids, I'm about to get married, and I can't do it on the money I make right now. We're having discussions in my household about, if one of us is to leave education, what is that gonna look like? My fiance is also a teacher. And one thing that is abundantly clear to both of us is that with the money we make, we can stay right where we are. There is no advancement, there's no extra, there's no splurging, we can stay right where we are. And for those of y'all that have kids, they're not cheap. They are not cheap.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you. So I know that you guys don't decide whether or not you get the money. If you did, we wouldn't be here. So speaking it into existence, when the county commission approves the budget, I implore you to not only keep teachers at the forefront of your decision, but the 45,000 kids that we serve. Thank you.
Heather Modrow.
Well, I did not have plans to speak tonight because I had emailed all of you instead. So if you read your email, this is a repeat. But my district board member encouraged me to speak these words to all of you, and plus it goes out to everybody else. What I have to say tonight might not be popular right now, especially based on what I've already heard. but I would rather do what's right than what's popular. I wish that we could put a referendum on the ballot for schools and leave it up to the taxpayers to decide, but in Tennessee, we know that's not how it's done. It's up to the 11 of you to decide tonight on which budget you're going to choose. And then you present it to the 11 commissioners, and they say yes or no. Yikes. We've been in this position before. I pulled this shirt out of my closet, and it's from 2019, where we were in the same position. Same thing with the buttons that I gave all of you. I remember that budget process and the commission voting for the county budget minus the schools. They don't care about us. We know that. You have the hard decision of not only choosing between option A and choice 1 and option 1 and 2, but then the percentage raise and the flat raise. And I think that's so hard for you to decide and then present that to the commission. Do you go with option 1, which I don't even know if any of you are even thinking about anymore? Option 1, you guys decided on that. You wanted that. That's what we need. That's what our students need. And then the commission comes along and says, here's a carrot. Here's some $5 million. Do option 2 instead. So do you do what you have already decided should be correct? Or do you go with the dangling carrot? Option 2 takes away the classified staff compensation improvement from the study that was done. And it's $5 million taken away from those who are already making the least amount. The least. I've shared the math with you. We know they can't live on that. And it's not right. It's not how we value people. It's demoralizing. And staff will leave to go to another county, another school, or Hobby Lobby. They do. They can pay better. I cannot do my job without my classified support. The entire school, from the secretary in the front office to the nurse in the back. I use them every single day. I cannot meet the needs of my special education students without my classified assistants. Our students do not get fed without school nutrition. Those are also classified, and they don't even get benefits. I ask you to do the hard thing. Approve option 1 with the flat raise for all. That does not benefit me. You can look on the salary scale. I'm 25 years with a master's. I benefit better from a percentage, but I sacrifice because I know what's right. Our classified staff, the least of these, they deserve more. So, show us that you value us, not with platitudes, not with jeans passes, not with the free lunch made from our school nutrition and giving them more work to do, but in the words of Jerry Maguire from 1996 movie, show me the money.
Okay, thank you, all of you who presented tonight. So we're ready for presentations.
Were there not 3 names on that list?
One was on there on
Twice.
both lists.
Had already signed up. Okay,
Yes.
my bad. Thank you.
Okay. So we're ready for our presentations, I think.
Yeah. Nolan McDaniel should be here as the director of Chat Academy
There you go,
Community
okay.
School.
Thank you for the chance to come and give updates. Before I jump in, I do want to just commend the Office of School Choice. They've been in some transition between Kelly Kofelt leaving, Jim Bowles stepping in, Fanny coming in. And for me, as a director of a school, it hasn't felt like they were in transition, which I really appreciate. They've all stepped in really nicely to support us. If you could go. Do I have control of
You
these?
turn it on the side. Yeah, no, you should have. There you
Great.
go.
This is just like an outline of what I'm going to go over, just a recap of mission, vision, core values. I know there's been a decent amount of turnover on the school board since we went through for approval. Just highlight our board of directors, where we're at with enrollment, staffing, and then a high-level overview of facilities and operations. So this is our mission. In partnership with families, we seek to support all 6th to 12th grade learners in pursuing curiosity, growing in global competence through bilingual studies, impacting their communities, and developing authentic character in order to be prepared to excel in post-secondary opportunities of their choice. Obviously, the big part of our branding is that we are a bilingual school, and our goal all along was for 50% of our kids to speak Spanish at home and 50% of them to speak English at home. When we get to the enrollment portion of this update, you'll see we're remarkably close to that split. And then I think another thing that distinguishes us from most charter schools is that we're interested in supporting kids for opportunities of their choice. So while we want every kid to be prepared to go to college, we also want to honor, celebrate, and support different avenues, whether they be technical, vocational, or whatever a kid chooses at the end of their time with us. So this is our board of directors. Since we were last year, we've grown from 5 to 12. Just a couple of highlights. We have a new board chair coming on. Dr. Nicolasa Tejero from the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga is coming on as our board chair, which we're really excited about. And then just an explanation of the underlined names on this list. All of the underlined names on this list are fully bilingual and biliterate. So it was important to us from the get-go that our board of directors mirrored the student body that we were going to serve, so that from the top down, we were authentically living our purpose and our mission and vision. An enrollment update. In 6th grade, our target was 100. We're at 59 right now. Our split between Spanish home and English home language is 55-45. And then our male-female is 45-55 as well. In 7th grade, we were always bringing in a small cohort of 7th graders that we were hoping would really be geared towards newcomers who would find our dual immersive environment uniquely supportive as a kid who doesn't speak any English. We're at 21 of the 25 is 48% Spanish home language, 52% English home language, more skewed female in the 7th grade. Just some important things to point out. We've been incredibly intentional to cast a wide net in our recruitment. So our 6th grade students come from 16 different elementary schools. Our 7th grade students come from 9 different middle schools. Any zone feeder pattern in the district makes up less than 15% of our enrollment. And then something that we are proud of is that 10% of the student body is actually coming back from the private sector or from the homeschool population, which was always a goal of ours, was to pull some families that were not utilizing public options back into a publicly funded school. This is just a map of where our kids are coming from. So we have pulled some kids geographically from quite some distance from our location, which we're excited about. And yeah, so it's a pretty good array of neighborhoods. Staffing, we are fully hired. We have one TA position posted that isn't integral to our instructional model, but supplemental. And if we were to reach 100 total students, we would hire that position and be able to fund it. Half of our staff are fully bilingual. 3 of the 5 instructional staff are fully bilingual. We have a certified ex-ed hired, 3 ENL certified hired, and our Spanish immersion teacher is also hired. So our academic model is fully staffed. I did highlight with headshots our 2 other leaders. Our director of operations is Diana Quintanilla. She's a former corporate attorney from Mexico City who immigrated here 6 years ago herself. And then our principal in residence is Cameron Wade. This is just a high-level overview of facilities and operations. You all know, because you voted to give us a deferral year, it took us quite some time to find a facility. On our 26th try, we found a viable facility. So we are in partnership with New Monumental Baptist. They've been incredible. The pastor there is incredibly community-minded. So we're excited to do some really important work with them. School nutrition, the YMCA through the J.A. Henry branch is going to be our school nutrition provider. We're working with Chattanooga Bus Company that also provides transportation for the other charters. Technology Lab is our IT support, and we use a company called CFO to Go for all of our fiscal controls, accounting, auditing, and HR. Great. any questions.
Ms. Jones.
So what's the timeline for opening? That's question one.
We are opening this August.
I know initially, and if I'm recalling correctly, and this might be a district question, when their initial application was in, it was saying it was targeting a certain zip code, certain district areas. And now in which he's saying they're not. This school is like 5 seconds from Woodmore Elementary School. In which Mr. McDaniel told me that they were not targeting students in the District 5 area. Clearly. I don't know, make it make sense, because that doesn't make sense to me. So I'm very concerned there, given the demographic, Barger, Woodmore, people who have been dedicated and working and doing the work with these families and supporting them, and a charter school coming into their area, mimicking Hamilton County schools, because we currently have a high school that's 60% Hispanic, 40% English speaking. A lot of it is already happening in our public school system. So I said this in the beginning, like, what makes this different? I'm just really, but I am very concerned now, because initially it was stated that it wasn't targeting those areas. And then even in the presentation, it says they don't come from the zone school, but yeah, you go down the street, what does that look like?
I can't speak to the model. What I can speak to in terms of charter is that we don't have control over where they locate. I will remind you, it's been a while, and it's one of the reasons why I asked them to come today. They're a middle school, right? So, they probably will recruit kids from Barger and from Woodmore, but it's not like an elementary school going right next to those schools.
But Delwood is 10 minutes away.
It's Delwood, but you're right, and if you look at our downtown schools 10 years ago in terms of middle schools, where they were then compared to now, you see the impact on those schools from Chap Prep, CGLA, all those schools. But again, we don't have control over those aspects.
I know. I just want to go on record as the District 5 representative to state that I am very concerned about this, because Delwood's numbers are were declining. They've worked very hard to sustain them and bring them up, because they have had to, and I hate to say this because they shouldn't have had to, because they're an amazing building, an amazing program, an amazing school that people are just sleeping on. But they've had to work really hard to maintain the students that are zoned for their schools, and it's amazing programming there. The staff and administration for years have worked and worked and worked, and because they were losing students to Chat Prep and to Chattanooga Charter and to Ivy and wherever else, and then here you come, and to me it's just an insult, and I have to say it's just an insult to put this school in this space. I'm very disheartened, and so I have to say that because I represent District 5, grew up in that area, and I've seen schools thrive. I've seen them thriving, and I'll see them thrive and succeed and be better. And they will be better than this. I shouldn't be concerned, but I am, because I know that in Chattanooga and in Hamilton County, the days of the community always mislead people and lead them from where they should be going to what is the nice new shiny penny. And this is going to be the nice new shiny penny in an area where people are often misled for others' benefits. And so I'm just very concerned. And I have to go on record for saying I am very concerned. And I feel very misled, because honestly, I shouldn't feel misled. I knew what I read, and I'm a Hamilton County grad, so I know how to read. I know what I read in the first application, and here it is. But I have to say that because this is really perturbing me.
Yeah, I'll clarify a few things. This actually is quite a bit different than anything going on. Under state law, there are no district schools that can instruct in Spanish. As you all know, when we came for approval, we filed under a waiver to instruct in students' home languages and also teach English-speaking kids to be completely fluent in another language. So to be classified fully bilingual is actually remarkably different than any other option that exists currently in the district. I think if I had gotten the chance to clarify or maybe go more in depth with a question about our enrollment practices, neither of those feeder elementary schools are our predominant feeder schools for elementaries. we have been intentional about spreading out where we are recruiting from, and Barger or Woodmore are not our primary feeders. So when we said that's not what we were going to do, we stood by that.
Oh, just wait till the fall.
Okay, I also would like to also be on the record. I did ask to meet with you
And I
one-on-one.
didn't want to meet with you because you already had lied. I already felt like you had lied in your application and you backpedaled several times. And I'll be very honest with you in your face. No, I did not want to meet with you again because what you stood here and stated is what you're doing. And you tried to backpedal it when you saw I was upset then. And it's okay because everybody has a right to their feelings. You do and I do too. But no, sir, I'm not going to sit and let someone try to coddle me into something that I know in my gut is going to harm my community. So no, sir. I don't play educational politics with the lives of the children of District 5, 4, 6, 7, matter of fact, 1 through 11. I don't. Because this sounds really good, but Woodmore's been there 40 years and Dalewood's been there 60 or 70 years. I know teachers that are 90 years old that were first African-American teachers in those buildings. So those schools have been around a long time. This one may be, this one may not be. Nothing personal, I just know my community.
It feels a little personal.
It's not. It's not.
Okay.
So please don't take it that way.
I think it would be fairly challenging for anyone to not take it personal. But I will reiterate, because I stood here 2 years ago and said that we weren't targeting any particular district, we did not. And the proof is in the numbers of where the kids are coming from. So come the fall, it will be that the bulk of our kids did not come from Woodmore or Barker.
Ms. Thurman?
Yes. You said you tried 27 different places right before you got this one, so it's not like you purposely put it there, correct? I mean,
Yes, ma'am.
you went where you could go.
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't do it on purpose. I have a good charter school in my district. It's Ivy Academy. My granddaughter goes to Daisy Elementary, but I don't have a problem with Ivy Academy taking some of Daisy Elementary students. I think it's parental choice, wherever parents want to go, and I'm personally glad that you're starting this school. I'd like to see more charter schools actually in Hamilton County. And I don't care if they do put another one up in Soddy Daisy. I'd like to see another one up on 58 Highway up in the north end. Put that bug in your ear if you know anybody that's interested. I'd like to see that. But anyway, I just wish you well.
Thank
Hope
you.
it goes well.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I have a comment or a question.
Okay.
I just want to, I'm over here.
Hey.
Sorry. I know this is an aside from everything, but one of the challenges that the school district is facing is dialects.
Mhm.
We have kids coming from large urban areas. They're coming from, some rural areas. And, having been on mission trips in Mexico, sometimes you can hardly understand someone because they're in a village that's been so isolated from others. And we have so many countries represented as these new arrivals in our schools. Are you going to see any problem with being able to handle this?
Sure. I think the predominant dialects we're seeing are Mam and Quiche are the two biggest ones we see coming in outside of traditional Spanish. I think in our recruitment of teachers, we try to be really intentional about recruiting teachers who represent the diaspora of Hispanic culture. So we have a Peruvian teacher, we have a Honduran teacher, we have a teacher from El Paso, we have a teacher from Mexico City. So we've tried to cover as many different versions and dialects as possible. We're not going to be able to capture all of that, but I think we are uniquely situated because we can instruct in Spanish to support a kid who, even if they speak Mam or Quiche, our model is more accessible than them being in a 100% English environment from the day they start school in Tennessee.
I just wanted to expand on that.
Yeah, no, it's an important question we're thinking a lot about.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. McDaniel?
Is the goal to teach the children English, all English?
The goal is that 100% of the students graduate fully bilingual and biliterate in both. So Half of them, the goal is they speak Spanish at home with their parents. The other half speak English at home with their parents. They cross immerse, they take a sheltered language class in whatever is not their native language. And then they all graduate fully bilingual, fully literate in English and Spanish.
How about the text materials?
Mm-hmm.
Same,
Yeah, I think it's been great that companies like Expeditionary Learning are now putting out bilingual materials, so which is the same literacy curriculum that a lot of schools here use. So we're grateful that people are starting to put out curricular materials that are in both languages. But where we can't find that, our board is, our secretary of our board is the head of the Multicultural Languages Department at UTC, and is going
I
to
do
support.
think it will benefit all children to be bilingual, so
Thank you. We think so too.
Okay, Mr. McDaniel, thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for
Mr.
coming
Smith.
to give us an update. Appreciate you. Next, we have a presentation by Ms. Moody. Ms. Moody, would it?
Chairman, I think we recommend punting this
Okay.
to July. We've got, we need to talk about some changes on the agenda, and even if we don't get to talk about the entire agenda, I think we need to get on the
Okay.
same page about what
All right,
we're looking
okay,
at.
thank you. Committee chair updates. Any of our committee chairs have an update? I know we had a policy committee meeting the other day, and we're gonna vote on some policies tonight. Mr. Conley, anything for us?
I mentioned last month that I would be putting together a roll-up report, and that will come next month. We had a bunch of things come in just last week, so in the interest of making sure that I cover everything responsibly, I'm going to wait another month to make sure I cover everything correctly.
Okay, thank you for your work there. And then, Mr. Perez, I know we're gonna talk about budget a lot tonight.
Yeah, I believe we have a budget vote this evening.
We do.
We'll have a lot of discussion, I'm sure.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Jones, facilities?
I'm waiting on my money in the fall. I'm waiting to see, what the mayor wants plans, what that's gonna look like in the budget. I mean, because we clearly don't have the money to do everything he wants to do.
Well, as I said earlier, so what the resolution they'll vote on, first vote's on Wednesday, it's for bond issue up to $250 million. Was clarified in that the $6 million that was withheld, that 60 to 65, whatever would end up being, is part of that. So there's the deferred maintenance. There was a question about, we were talking about 260 at one point, why it's 250. There's some intricacies of that I don't feel like I can speak to at the moment, but there is a first vote next Wednesday.
Could I ask a question? Mr. Brown?
Dr. Robertson, I don't know if you can clarify this or not, but it was like 6 weeks ago that a couple of county commissioners said that they had 200 million still left in ESSER funds that were going to be applied to these capital projects for the schools. Is that not on the table anymore, or can you clarify that?
Theirs would have been ARPA funds. I don't recall hearing that. I know that we've got some projects still going on with their ARPA funds. 200 million sounds like a lot. Like, I don't think they got anywhere close to 200 million.
Well, I'll double check.
Yeah. But you're right, there are some of those projects that are still ongoing.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. King?
And I know we ran into some situations with Clifton Hills, so when this money's passed, are you gonna give us a updated priority list of the things, like what the kind of schedule is?
No, sir. Y'all have already voted on that. So
Right.
right now, I'm working based on the priorities you guys
All right,
have
so it
already
is
set,
still-
which off
it
the
is
top of
still
my
that.
head, Clifton Hills is, I believe, number 2 on that list. And so we're working based on that. Anything that is recommended or changes from there, in my opinion, and Scott would have to convince me otherwise, I would have to come back to you to change it. So if Gateway is not 1 and Clifton Hills is not 2 and Soddy Daisy Middle is not 3, if we want another school to jump in front, my interpretation is I have to come and get approval from y'all.
Unless Scott convinces you otherwise.
Okay. Did I miss anybody? Okay, we got an agenda, a big agenda. We've had several additions to that agenda, and I hope you've got those, and we'll introduce some more when we start our regular meeting. So, looking down the agenda, I know that budget's going to be a big thing tonight. So let's just begin there. I know we don't have much time left in our work session, and I want to leave plenty of time for discussion with regard to the budget. So let's just start there. Let's talk about the budget.
We're talking about the budget now.
Mr.
Perez?
Chairman, can I
Yes.
clarify just what we're recommending? And again, Scott convinced me otherwise. I think what we presented to you and this document shows several different options. I just want to clarify what we're talking about so that we're all on the same page. So where it says FY25 budget version 1, version 1 will refer to as I've been referring to it as the original $20 million ask, right? So version 1 is the $20 million ask. Option A is saying that under version 1, it would be a 5% across the board raise, where option B is the flat raise option, okay? You go just the right of that, version 2, we'll call the compromise $5 million, which includes option A, a 3%, or a flat raise of $1,750. It would be administration's recommendation that there are two votes. There's a vote on which version 1 or version 2, and then there's a second vote on percent raise versus flat raise, so option A, option B. So I just wanted to clarify that so that we're all kind of talking the same language around this.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Robertson. Marco Perez, Mr. Perez.
So, I mean, I want to reiterate a couple things that I've heard tonight, which is what I have heard is the commission telling us, give us your budget. And so from my perspective, you know, this isn't easy. There's a lot of people that are impacted one way or another. And even if the difference for a large number of our staff is $1,000 between one version and the other version, $1,000 when you make very little is a lot of money, right? It doesn't play out that way when you split it up into 26 payments and take away all other expenses, but it's still something. And so when I hear, you know, give us your option. The other thing I weighed is we do have a commission. It's the only thing I've said. I think it's a valid argument. I think unfortunately some chose a little bit of smear campaigning. I don't think that's our proper way to move forward. I want to thank the administration publicly for all the work that you've done, and it's you know, it's our job to ask what we think we need. I think the one argument that I sat there is the area of debt servicing being included in that, and $250 million hopefully being asked. But I still think our job's to come in and ask for what we can ask for, right? And what we believe our community needs. There's no doubt that our community is getting expensive to the point where people are having to make choices as to whether this can be a community they live in. That's, I don't know whose fault that is, whether we want to blame people above all of our pay scales or whether we want to just blame the nature of growth. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we can keep the best teachers. I'm reminded when I think it was one of the teachers was speaking, and I mentioned it a long time ago, where years ago I was taking one of my daughters out to dinner, just her and I was asking her about school, and she was telling me about her favorite teacher. And we got to the restaurant we were going, and I'm not kidding, I wish this wasn't a true story, but the server was her favorite teacher at the restaurant. And I was just thinking, like, very strange coincidence, but I was thinking this person goes from working all day, to serving in the evening at a restaurant in order to make ends meet. I know teachers, I won't go into details because they will know that I'm speaking of them, but I know teachers and some of the extra things they have to do in order to cover life and hope to make ends meet at the end of the year or the month or whatever time it is. So from my perspective, I just think what I heard from the commission is bring forward the budget. I know Mr. Connor wishes we would have done it last time, but I listened to the commission. They said bring forward the budget, and so my perspective, I think we ask for what we can ask for, and if we're here next month talking about the budget again, we're here next month talking about the budget. So.
Okay, Ms. Robinson?
I think it's me, maybe. Okay. I just wanted to give a couple words as well on the budget process. First of all, thank you, Marco, for leading this committee.
I'm not doing it again.
He told me that he's quitting. So, anyways, although you're a quitter, wish you were doing it again next year. But I've served on this board for 8 years now, and this is my last budget vote, which is kind of great, kind of not. But I've watched the process become just so much more, I feel like, fluid and just such a more real process than what I feel like it was before many of us got on this board. And so I want to thank the board for making this process. I remember whenever I came on the board, Rhonda, and we would talk about the budget process. I feel like it's just improved so much since then. So thank you to my fellow board members. But I agree, thank you to the administration. You guys really care. I think one thing, sitting here today and listening to our teachers and our staff speak, I do know this. I know that the administration cares so much about making sure that our staff and our team, our teachers, that the pay is what it should be. And I agree with you. You cannot live on this pay. And I wish on one hand that I was going to be here longer so I could keep fighting that for you. But instead, I'm going to be out there with you guys fighting for you every year when it comes to budget time. Because if there's one thing that I wish over the last 8 years I could have seen just take a drastic turn, I wish that it was the level of pay that teachers are paid. It's just not enough. Certainly we have seen some improvements, but it's just not where it should be. So I certainly understand where you guys are and always appreciate the words that you say, but I do know that this team right here cares so much. And I believe that one day we're going to get there. So, and I hope we make good progress tonight with votes. So I just want to simply comment that I do think this process has been good this year. Thank you, Marco. But I just really want to encourage all the board members that are staying past August, just to really keep fighting on the budget front. And we do need to keep pushing the boundaries when it comes to the county commission and the state, and eventually maybe the federal level when it comes to getting the funding that we need for our public schools. And so just wanted to share those thoughts.
Thank you. Mr. Connell?
Thank you, Chair. So, yeah, Marco's right. I got elected to this board because I told people that I wanted to listen to the voice of educators and parents and make the right choices for our students and the school system. I was happily reminded of that today in an email, and I'll read. Hello, Ben. I'm writing today to add to the chorus of HCS staff and parents who want the budget to reflect what the teachers need most. I urge you to listen to the voices of the teachers that make sense and vote for what they need. That's what I plan to do tonight. I plan to vote for what we should have voted for last month.
Okay, Ms. Black?
I agree. I said a lot of things last month that I still mean. I feel like even though the process may have gotten smoother over the years, the narrative is still disingenuous in some places, some voices around our budget. And when we take a budget to county commission, it's not a list of wish items that we can cross off of and move stuff around. Most of our costs with Hamilton County are fixed. It is salary, it is fuel, it is energy, it is healthcare benefits. A lot of these things, we don't have a lot of wiggle room in our budget. When we take a budget to the county commission, this is just what education costs in Hamilton County schools. I plan to ask for what our staff deserves and what our kids deserve and what our community says that they need based on wanting to prioritize public education in Hamilton County. We can do that. We can make a decision to prioritize education, and that is what I plan on asking our county commission to do.
Okay. Ms. Thurman?
Yes. Well, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. Yes, we do have wiggle room in this budget. It starts today for next year. The things we do all year long come down to this moment. We create Frankenstein, and then we have to feed him and take care of him, and we don't like it when it comes to this point. If, like I've said before, if teacher salary is our number one issue, we should deal with that first instead of on the back end. Every time that we approve another position in this school system, it takes money out of the pool of money that we could use for teachers. We have done it all year long. I cannot tell you how many new positions. We said we had 500 new positions. You don't think that affects what we could pay teachers? Yes, it does. Everything always looks good and shiny until it comes down to this point. And I personally, I've been watching it for 20 years. Always a teacher's raise and increasing teacher salary is always at this point at the very end. We should do it at the very first, and then whatever's left over, we could disperse it out however, but the most important things the school system needs. But they definitely need teachers, they need cafeteria workers, they need bus drivers, and they need the other support staff in the offices at these schools. That's the main things that the kids need to learn. All this other stuff is just fluff to make other people's job easier in some instances. Now, I get so frustrated because it comes down to this, because the people we're going to the commission, and we're asking the commission to do this, well, in some cases, the only way the commission can give us more money is to increase taxes on the people, the very people that are facing the same things that the teachers are facing. They can't afford to live either. But yet you're wanting them to come across with more money to make it easier on teachers. When really it's our job. We are getting a pile of money, and that pile of money, how we slice it up is entirely up to us. Like I've always said, with 9 votes, we can make the front door the back door. Don't tell me we can't do the stuff we can. It's just if we had the will to do it. And now we're down to this point, and like I say, we tell the teachers all the time they're the most important people, but we don't act like it. Because here at the end, now they're having to say, okay, all this money spent, this is all we have to give you a raise with. You know, and I've been watching it for years, and every year it makes me angry because people will say, you know, that you don't care. Yes, I care all year long. I say every time we vote for a position, you know, these positions need to go away if we don't have funding for them. This one-time money, you cannot run a budget on one-time money. You can't do it at your house. I can't do it at my house. You know, if you get some kind of if you win the lottery, you can't spend, you know, $1 million lottery, you can't spend $1 million every year. It just don't work that way. When that $1 million is gone, it's gone. And so, you know, I'm going to vote for the budget. I'm going to ask the commission what I think they'll let us have. And we put ourselves in this position. I'm not going to totally blame the commission. I'm going to blame the board. We've been doing it for years. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm going to vote for what realistically I think we can get. And like I say, and then when we show that we can have more fiscal responsibility on the board, maybe they'll be a little bit more amenable to what we want to do. Thank you.
Mr. Rohn?
Well, having been a classroom teacher, my position as a board member will always be that I want to make more investment in those that deal with our students every single day, especially in the classroom. and I've heard this now 34 years. Quit my job, went back to college full-time for 3.5 years with no salary to become a teacher. And I've taught in 4 or 5 different states because my wife's an Army nurse, and it's the same everywhere. We talk the talk, but we never walk the walk. I don't like any of these versions. This pay increase, just a pay increase to 17 million would represent only 2.9% of our entire budget for next year. I don't like 1,700. Unfortunately, I don't like 2,800 because I don't think the county commission, and I've actually been told that that's not going to fly. We need to put forth something that's somewhere in between that has the possibility of being approved the first time, instead of having to come back here and have these budget meetings to meet what we're told to do. We can't control the county commission. We are suffering under, I'll just be honest, the last 5 years, Tennessee has been suffering under really bad federal policy. Congress is dysfunctional. And then we throw on COVID on top of that, and all the missteps that were made, hopefully, you know, in good faith, but ended up really causing what we're facing today is what, 22% inflation? My buying power personally in the last 5 years is down. I've lost 22% of my personal buying power from my own salary. I've got my teacher's retirement. I've got my Sears retirement, for any of you who can remember Sears, you know. And I've got another little retirement and Social Security. And folks, I've lost 22% of my buying power. 6 years ago, you know, my dollar was worth $1. Now it's worth not even 80 cents. So something has to change, and it has to change in areas that the only people who have control over it are the voters. For example, you know, Greg O2, right? To put one of those in every single cafeteria in our district would only cost $5,135. You're telling me that we can't walk out of this room and raise $5,000 for something that could save a child's life? You gotta be kidding me. Anyway, I digress. But I wanna see something different. I don't like $1,750. You know, I'd like to see it at $2,000. And what are we gonna do, Dr. Robinson, with our classified staff?
Classified staff are included in this, all of them that are full-time
Okay.
employees.
So if we gave $2,000, someone making $3,500 would get a 5.7% increase. Somebody making $50,000 would get a 4% increase. You know, I like that better than what I'm seeing. So that's going to be one of my recommendations, is that we don't have to go with this. We can do what we want to do. But we're going to have to find some common ground and something that we're not going to have to deal with later. Just my opinion.
Mr. King?
So I'm going to take a page out of Mr. Perez's playbook, and that is to let the audience know what we're looking at today. So we have 2 versions. Version 1 is what we had discussed and hoped to do a month and a half, 2 months ago as we started discussing our budget, which is a 5% raise or a $2,800 flat raise. That version was suggested would not fly. So then we came up with version 2, which is what our county commission hopes that we will vote and pass on, which is a 3% raise or a flat $1,750. So what we're looking at here is voting on version 1 or version 2. Version 1, which I know we would all like to do, but we know that, and we've been told that that's just going to delay the process, and we're going to have to be back here again to discuss this, which actually might be the segue into hearing what Mr. Groen is talking about, to making it 2,000, or voting on version 2. And then our second vote, to vote either on a flat raise or a percentage raise. So just letting the public kind of be aware of that, that's what this discussion is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Ms. Faye Robinson?
Well, I was just gonna say, the amount of money for the budget is mind-boggling. But when you think that we've got to have transportation, we've got to have a facility, we've got to have teachers, we've got to have materials, we've got to have nurses in the schools. And ever since I've been on the board, I've been saying, but I want to help the teachers. And I was slow to come around to the instructional coaches, but I was told, I mean, the schools in my area say that does help the teachers. So my point is, can we do anything else to help the teachers other than hire new positions? And like so many have said, you know, we're all struggling. I can't believe what I spend at the grocery store. Can we do anything to help the teachers more?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's several things here to consider. I mean, number one, maybe stepping back, looks like this has gone smoother. It's a hard process. I would consider myself a historian of Hamilton County Schools budgets, and we've tried to address every single question that has ever been asked in a meeting around our budget, whether it's around transparency, whether it's around results, whether it's around the number of people at central office. We've addressed all of those, and the ball keeps getting moved. This question about the 520 new employees that came up, that was actually in last year's budget. We talked about that last year. That's not this year.
We had ESSER money, though.
No, these are not, those were in our GP budget. They were in our GP budget. So
Yes,
we
because
talked,
we covered other things with ESSER money. It comes out of your right pocket or left pocket.
it was in the budget, and we talked about that last year. I've presented that to the county commission. I've presented it to this board. Also we talked about inflation. Like, inflation hits an organization like a school system harder than it hits families. And I told HCA when we were talking about salaries, I understand inflation, but you also have to understand that it hurts a school system's budget more than it hurts our individual homes' budgets. We're bigger, got more tires, we have more fuel, we have more costs. And so when we're talking about inflation going up, the spending power that a district has decreases. It's reality. I want to support teachers as much as every one of you do. And it's not where it needs to be, but take the 8 years that several of you have been on this board and look at what has happened to compensation. So in the past 8 years, over the past 8 budget cycles, you've approved a 21% raise for teachers. Starting teacher pay has gone from just under $38,500, if this budget's approved, to $50,000. It's not where it needs to be, and I'll be the first to tell you that, but the steps that we've been able to make in the last 8 years, and specifically in the last 3, if this budget passes with the 3%, it'll be 11% in the last 3 budgets. It's the highest single raise in 3 consecutive budget cycles in the history of Hamilton County Schools. And so I understand, like, I'm frustrated. I want the 5%. I want to continue. But I also think it's important to step back and say, we have done a lot towards compensation in the last 8 years. We've done a lot in the last 3 years. we need to keep pushing it. We need to keep working towards it. Part of the strategy around this budget and going and asking for $20+ million was to start a conversation, and it has started that conversation. And so when you ask, what am I going to do for teachers? In 3 budgets, it's at minimum 11%. We are standing behind teachers and the positions that we put in place last year. We're in coordination with HCEA and saying part of teacher morale is not just wages, it's also working conditions, and it's putting the number of resources in schools to help them serve the kids the best way that they can. I understand the frustration. I'm there as well, but I also think it's important for us to think realistically about where we are.
All right, we're gonna run out of time here, so, but I'm, Ms. Jones, you already lit up, and then we're gonna have to move on. It's gonna be time to start our regular meeting, so Ms. Jones?
I just want to say that whatever option we decide to choose, I'm in support of a flat rate versus a percentage, simply because like I said, at budget session, I'm very concerned about those that are in the buildings every day doing the hard work. And as I continue to see, and I know we're making a hard chart, we have tough decisions to make as a board. District levels, leadership has tough decisions to make. I mean, I literally read an article this morning about what Memphis Shelby County's superintendent is proposing with their budget. And I mean, she's proposing to cut almost 250 positions.
Of 1,100.
Of
1,100.
Right, but then when they broke it down, it was like 250 that were like hard, like these are going regardless. Like some are, maybe could talk about it, but 250 was like, I don't see the need, what's the point? And trying to offer them other positions as she's restructuring. And I also read an article this weekend where DeKalb County Schools is paying their teachers $65,000. And so and that's starting rate. And so we're seeing it everywhere, but I do feel like in order to begin to work to close the gap and deal with this compression situation, we have to do something that's gonna take those that are in this day in, day out positions. It's gonna bring them up, and some people are just having to take one for the team, and it's okay because when you're a team, sometimes you take one for the team. But I just want to say that. So I know for me, whether it be version 1 or version 2, I'm voting for option B of one of those two.
Mr. Perez is our budget chair. I'm gonna let you have the final word.
Yeah, just one additional clarification. When we do talk about a budget increase, we tend to forget we also have a step increase for teachers. And so I don't want to forget that, because that's what we negotiate. We never promise you an increase as a board. We do promise that we, as much as possible, I remember I wasn't on the board when that got held back for a little bit, but we do promise a step increase. So it's not no increase otherwise. There's always that for teachers. So they're not easy decisions. And I do want to say, I'm very careful of this, and I'm a peacemaker, and I try to get along with everybody. But I don't believe the county commission doesn't care about education. I don't say that. I think they care. They have a harder job than we do, because inflation affects the entire county, expenses affect the entire county, everybody's affected. I'm just elected to support education. That's my job. I get a very easy focus, and I'm going to do everything I can in that focus.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Perez. Okay, I'm going to adjourn our agenda session, and we'll just take a real quick 5-minute break, and we'll come back and start our regular meeting.